changing your rack position when adding sleeves. So again, this is a thing that I would aim to do in different phases. So say, assuming that you're not going to compete for a bit, like I would do like a phase where you do it without sleeves, because the advantage, because it almost look at like a continuum where, say, if you go sleeveless, you're going to find it easier generally to find, especially with axle and log, to find a good rack position where you feel connected to the torso, i.e. the thing that's going to produce the magic and drive the force into the bar. But you're going to get less assistance because you don't have that spring from the sleeve. You go to the other end of the continuum and you go to like a triple ply sleeve, for instance, where you're going to get loads of spring if you get your timing right, but it's almost kind of creating this disconnect of the rack position, where like you see people, like say, imagine people racking an axle up here with the kind of triple ply sleeves, and they just can't get that they can't get the bar or the object down to the torso. So it does become difficult there to, like, the further it is away, obviously this kind of, what is it, a lever or whatever, the further the object is from the thing actually producing force, i.e. the hips, the more power leakage. So the lower that we can keep down and the more connected, the better the transfer of power that you're putting in with the hips and the lower body is actually going to go into actually having an effect on the object. So that's the kind of that's the thing that changes with sleeves. So you might actually find that as you transition between phases, like I'm just talking like I don't think anybody actually trains like this, to be honest, because of all the different things that we have to account for. But if you think of this like, say, 12-week training block where you could do 4 weeks without sleeves, the last 4 weeks with your competitions, like say triple ply, double ply, and then the bit in the middle you might do with some neoprene ones where you're just introducing a little bit of support, but it's not stealing your rack position as much as these triple plies. But so taking this beautiful, perfect phase that nobody ever does, you could you actually link that within like a training week, or like say could you do going back to say the undulating approach, could you do one session with your sleeves where you're focusing on developing that rack and building that connection, then you do like the next session with your like thicker sleeves where you're focusing on like producing as much power with the kind of from the elbow, and that helping you, and then using the other session to go somewhere in the middle. Like they're all going to give you value and benefits. Like say for instance, but that's the value you're going to get from the sleeveless session is going to be is actually building that connection of feeling connected with the bar, because you can't rely on the sleeve to produce the power, so you're having to use something else, because your arms aren't in a good position to produce force up. So it can actually be a really, really good way of learning leg drive. Might be a really good way to learning your push presses and jerks and stuff. But then as you get closer to comp, add it, sprinkling the sleeves in. I think another thing, a massive thing where people go wrong is I'll see people when they treat themselves to like say a new pair of, like say a pair of thick sleeves, and they're going to save it till comp day to actually use them, and then they get caught out because the rack position changes. So I would say that combating the change of rack position for overhead, I would say just practice sleeveless, maybe with a neoprene and maybe with a thicker sleeve, and do all your variations and just notice what changes, what's different on each lift. I'll just give you a really quick summary of what I think. Like say axle, your press is going to feel easier with the thicker sleeve, but as you go to a thicker sleeve, the clean is going to feel significantly more difficult. So you need to find out where what's the trade-off. Like, do I need an easier clean? Do I need a, like say more on the press? Like, and it's not always an easy question to answer. For example, last time I did axle for reps, I actually went sleeveless for the first time, and it was okay. I think I hit like 120 for 4 at the under 80s comp without sleeves, and the rack position just felt amazing. Oh, the reason why I did it was because as I was getting close to comp, I was struggling. I was like failing the clean, so or failing the clean deeper into the set. So because I obviously tested this myself, like I was looking at ways that I could kind of help me with that, and the jerk and the press felt harder, but it was worth that trade-off for me at that time. Whereas when I did it earlier in the year, I did 120 for 4 or 5 again at the under 105 qualifier. I did it with my neoprene sleeves. Whereas if I was doing like say a max from the rack, I'd wear like the triple ply sleeves, or like say a Viking press or something. But yeah, it's that kind of you just got to work it out on each individual lift, and again it changes for you and your strengths and your body makeup. So log, so again you're gonna find that it's almost pushing you forward with the log because of the log rolling. Mitchell Hooper, what did he do? Failed 200 at got very close with the 200 kilo at the Shore Classic, and but he says that he thinks that he missed that because he was wearing the triple ply sleeves that he doesn't wear now, and he could feel that in the rack he was having to, that like the sleeves were pushing him forward, and he was actually actively having to push back into them. So obviously he's getting like plenty of tension there, but is the tension going in the right direction? Whereas you go for like a dumbbell, for instance, and I actually find that personally, that I'm not a massive fan of doing it without sleeves because it just changes the rack position to. Like I actually feel having like for me and my weight and my body makeup, like actually having like just a little bit of tension here at the elbow, just puts me. Otherwise, my arm drops right here, and then I'm having to keep the same rack position. I'm having to keep this arm up like that. So like I'm obviously a massive advocate of making the arm redundant and making the arm relaxed. So if I relax the arms without sleeves, the dumbbell will drop down here. So it doesn't feel quite as good to when I keep the arm relaxed with a neoprene or an elbow or like a thicker one. Like the relaxed arm stays here, which if you think the dumbbell handle will be a little bit here. So in the case of the dumbbell, I actually find it, better with the sleeves in terms of finding the optimal rack position, which is very different to like axial barbell and dumbbell. Sorry, axial barbell and log.